Welcome back to the Literary Apothecary. My name is Kate and I'm here today to talk about Burning Girls and Other Stories, a short story collection by Veronica Schanoes. This was recommended to me at Barnes & Noble. One day I went in having a craving for some new books, but I wanted some books that were not as popular as others. I went to one of the associates there and said, give me some books that you think are underappreciated, and this was one of them that was pointed out. My general thoughts about this book was that this was one of the most unique short story collections I've read. As I mentioned, I went to the bookstore, asked for unique short story collections that needed more attention, and they pointed me to this one. Schanoes writes with such vivid and detailed writing that these stories will stay in my head for a long, long time. Now, let me give you an idea of what this short story collection is all about. This was a most anticipated book in 2021 pick for the independent BuzzFeed The Nerd Daily. So, our spoiler-free description. When we came to America, we brought anger and socialism and hunger. We also brought our demons. In Burning Girls and Other Stories, Veronica Schanoes crosses borders and genres with stories of fierce women at the margins of society burning their way toward the center. This debut collection introduces readers to fantasists in the vein of Karen Russell and Kelly Link, with a voice all her own. Emma Goldman, yes, that Emma Goldman, takes tea with the Baba Yaga and truths unfold inside of exquisitely crafted lies. In Among the Thorns, a young woman in 17th century Germany is intent on avenging the brutal murder of her peddler father, but discovers that vengeance may consume all that it touches. In the show-stopping awards finalist title story Burning Girls, Schanoes invests the immigrant narrative with a fearsome fairy tale quality that tells a story about America we may not want but need to hear. Dreamy, dangerous, and precise with the weight of the very oldest tales we tell, Burning Girls and Other Stories introduces a writer pushing the boundaries of both fantasy and contemporary fiction. Now, the other unique thing about this collection is that this is based off of old Jewish fairy tales, folk tales, which you hardly ever see in contemporary literature today. I love that it's a whole new set of folk tales that I personally haven't seen before. So my call pile thoughts are based on kind of the stories as a whole, as the collection, not the individual stories. I don't have one set of ratings for each story. Although I think I will be able to tell you my favorite stories at the end, so stay tuned for that if you want just a couple of stories. So, our characters. They were unique and realistic and unlike any other characters I've read. I felt like I knew each one of these characters in a different way. Our atmosphere and setting, overall the atmosphere and setting were well done. There were just few stories that I would just like a little bit more in there. Writing style, while I didn't love every story, and usually this will take down this category rating just based on that for me, Schanoes' writing style and vivid descriptions helped in nearly every other category, and I can't ignore that, so I gave it full credit for this. Our plot. Some stories had a much stronger plot than others, and that's okay. Intrigue, I was always interested in these stories. I never knew what I was gonna get, and I was always interested to find out. Logic, some stories I had to think a bit longer about to make sense out of, and some of the logic wasn't there as much as others. Enjoyment, I liked most of the stories, and some I absolutely loved. So let me tell you, my favorite stories from this collection were How to Bring Someone Back from the Dead. That title just immediately grasped me, and her storytelling in that story just took me through to the end. Emma Goldman Takes Tea with the Baba Yaga. Look, this story is highly, highly imaginative, and it was so entertaining to read. And of course, our title story, Burning Girls, was such a fantastic way to end this collection, to title off this collection. It was an incredible title story. Now, I have just one quote for you guys, and this is from the introduction to this collection. This was written by Jane Yolen, which doesn't mean anything to me, but if it means something to you, then there you go. This is a quote I took from the foreword there, and I feel like it really describes Janos's writing style and this whole collection really, really well in a way that I could never describe. Make no mistake, these are not those old tales, the ones that wobble about on the superhighway of retellings, often losing both plot and characterization from the long years of tongue polishing. Rather, these stories come from an unconfined imagination, soaked in the stories, but told by an author who has studied them with a microscope and has carved them into her heart. If you have read Burning Girls and other stories, let me know in the comments below what was your favorite story in this collection. If you haven't read it but you are now interested, let me know in the comments below what did I say that made you interested, and if it was a particular story, please do let me know in the comments below what story that was that made you interested. As always, keep reading, and I love you all to the moon and back. Bye.